Hello, everyone. A very good day to all of you, and welcome to today's webinar about a very nice at a company called Biotech Medical. And the story is about automating the quality control process of this company. I am excited to have been able to attend this meeting today and that we have such numerous number of participants. My name is Oliver Deutsch, and I'm working for Axon Ivy since 7 years as the head of partner management. And today I'd like to introduce you to Neil Simpson, who is CEO of our partner company, Innovosity. In a few moments, Neil will present you the project success at BioCare. The webinar's duration will be approximately 30 minutes. If you have any questions, you have the possibility to post your questions in the chat panel. We will try to answer your questions either immediately during the webinar or at the end. Before I hand over to Neil, let me quickly introduce you to Axon Ivy. Axon Ivy is a Swiss software company represented with subsidiaries, partners, and customers all over the world. The Axon Ivy digital business platform has been awarded multiple times by leading analysts such as Gartner and Forrester. We have a strong partner concept and work with more than 50 partners across the globe. These partners implement solutions such as the one we are presenting today on our platform. With Axon Ivy, companies take full advantage of a low-code digital business platform and manage and automate and orchestrate their daily business processes more efficiently. Saying that, we, our partners and customers, create custom business applications on that platform. This can be small, quick win applications, but also very mission-critical applications. One good example of an application built with the Axon Ivy digital business platform is the quality control process at BioCare. That's why I hand over to Neil now. Neil, please tell us more.
Thank you very much, Oliver. So before we get into the details of our solution, just a quick word about us and who we are. Innovosity is a specialist consultancy and system integrator that is 100% focused on digital transformation technologies like Axon Ivy. And we offer a full suite of services to deliver a complete solution, not just the automation, but everything from process modeling, analysis and improvement through to reporting and additional automation with RPA. We work with companies of all sizes in a variety of different verticals, but most of the business that we do comes from the topic we're discussing today, which is digital process automation. Our customer, Biotech Medical, a little bit of background about them. They offer products to address cancer and infectious disease diagnostic and research markets, primarily instrumentation and reagents for lab testing. And with a transition to new ownership back in 2017, there was a new management team that came in at BioCare who needed to quickly understand the overall business and define a roadmap for the company's growth and success. They selected Innovosity to, first of all, audit and document their key operational business processes in order to align the organization on current practices, identify opportunities for improvement, and so on. But the primary driver why this documentation was so important was that they were preparing for a medical device single audit program, or MDSAP certification, in 2019. The program that we delivered successfully delivered 3 key highlights that we'll be discussing here today. Of course, there first and foremost is the audit and documentation of those key business processes, ensuring that they got their certification and compliance with MDSAP and with ISO. But above and beyond this, where the digital business platform comes in is automation of, firstly, their quality control processes. And you'll see as part of this presentation some of the transformational improvements that we were able to bring in terms of lead time, quality, and efficiency. And the last thing I'll note here is that it was delivered with high efficiency because of the Axon Ivy digital business platform, as compared to developing something completely custom. We were able to leverage the platform to deliver with a small project team, and the customer did not have to add a bunch of new headcount, additional new developers, additional new project resources to get this done. The last thing that I'll say here is it's important to note that BioCare didn't start their digital transformation journey with a small and a low impact process. Leadership deliberately selected a project that was instrumental to their growth and success. And I think the quote here really says it all. So the project was delivered in two main phases, and the first phase was to understand all of the core processes of the company and document them using BPMN, or Business Process Modeling Notation. Before starting any kind of process documentation project, it's important to settle on that standard quickly. And BPMN, for those of you that are not familiar with it, is a very widely used standard maintained by OMG. A wide number of tools, including Axon Ivy, support it. But beyond just this technical aspect of automation, it's also a great standard purely for documenting processes in a structured, readable, and consistent way because it's rules-based and it has a limited number of shapes. I'm sure you've all seen those Visio process diagrams that people put together without standardization and with all kinds of crazy and inconsistent shapes. It's very hard to read and interpret, let alone automate. So the way that we approached this, we have an expert auditor that was able to talk to leadership to first of all understand the big picture from the value chain point of view and where the areas of focus were. And there were 21 core processes that were identified for this audit. And that auditor then walked the line with those operational subject matter experts to observe the process in action, to ask questions, and start putting together the documentation. This documentation, as it was compiled, was published to an online portal so that everyone in the whole company had access to this single latest source of truth all in one spot, which for those of you who've been through an audit know how critical that is, that everyone is saying the same thing with regard to what the process is and where it can be found. So this phase was integral not only to achieving the audit certification, but above and beyond that, it also achieved two other key objectives. It aligned the organization on the same set of operating methods and standards so that everyone is working consistently and effectively, and it also helped to identify processes that could benefit most from automation and improvement. And that was our phase two. So the process that was selected here was the quality control process. This was going to be the first inaugural subject for digital process automation. And it's a very critical process to the company, as it is to any kind of biotech or manufacturing company. Firstly, because errors are very expensive and risky because of the cost of the manufactured product and the downstream impact to customers if the material, the product is not right. It was also selected because the original process was highly manual. It was very paper-based. It was considered very error-prone. So there were lots of manual redundant checks in the process as a result. Checkers checking the checkers and someone else checking what the checker checked. So this was something that was very clearly of integral importance to the company and ripe for improvement with digitization. And thanks to that process documentation effort, BioCare already had a baseline, and they'd identified exactly where those wasteful steps, those duplicated steps were to be addressed. So we had, first of all, replaced the paper forms and the email with digital forms and with workflow, built in validations and rules to make sure all the correct data is entered properly at the right place and time. Secondly, data quality was increased by providing new databases for the product master list, equipment, and materials, providing a consistent system of record. And finally, by automating the business process in this BPMS, or Business Process Management System, the whole process was, as we like to say, put on rails, making sure it's always following the right path every time, the right person's getting the work and addressing it in a timely manner, and really institutionalizing the new process and the best practices. And coming back to the audit, the fact that every action, every decision is captured automatically by the system and can be reported in a standardized audit trail is an incredible benefit. So the first deployment, the first release of this solution was in Q1 of 2020. And there were very strong gains observed for lead time, quality, and efficiency. But what I'm highlighting here in a couple of areas, there were some pretty transformative results. You can see here in the table that it's all around test verification and generation of performance reporting. The verification, the duplication there was completely eliminated, and the generation of performance reports, which previously used to be going around and collecting information using email or walking the floor and trying to consolidate all kinds of sub-optimized data sources, available in a few clicks, vastly reduced, and 90% improvement. And thanks to those strong results, BioCare used Axon Ivy further in their business, next to automate their COVID compliance and scheduling. And we'll talk briefly about this at the end, what that is. And they're now planning to expand this to other areas such as product development, other key integral aspects of their business operations. So we're often asked, why Axon Ivy as opposed to something else when implementing these types of solution? And Innovosity has decades of experience working with a variety of BPM platforms, and for this reason, we're often brought in by our clients to help them assess and choose what's the right one for them. And this was also the case with BioCare. They didn't come to us telling us that they wanted to purchase digital process automation. They didn't say they wanted to purchase BPM. They were looking for a recommendation on how to solve their business challenge. So the platform that we recommend is based first and foremost on that business problem the customer is trying to solve, but also the technical maturity of the organization that's looking after the platform. And a few words I'll say about this. Many of you will have heard Forrester's characterization of this software market as deep versus wide. The concept being that some platforms are very technically capable, but they're somehow expensive and hard to use. And these are deployed in a few use cases where there's a very challenging technical need. Those are the ones on the deep end. And then you have these cheaper and simpler tools that could be used by so-called citizen developers, these kind of mildly technical people that would normally build some kind of Excel or Access-based point solution. And those ones are deemed not so capable from a technical point of view, but they can be deployed to a wide range of simple use cases, kind of the wide end of that spectrum. And Forrester's characterization is an interesting way to think about it, but if you look out on the market now, you'll see a lot of vendors trying to tie themselves into knots, positioning themselves as the deepest of the wide or the widest of the deep or something like that. And ultimately trying to bucket a vendor in this way, at least for me, is a bit of an exercise in frustration, especially since no one likes buying something that doesn't have the capability to address the deep use cases. So when we were talking about Axon Ivy to BioCare and they chose to go with it, there were a few specific requirements that came to the forefront. One was the flexibility or customizability, especially of the user interface. They needed rich and highly tailored user interfaces, not simple drag and drop web forms. And the fact that Axon Ivy is bundled and works very well with the powerful Prime Faces library for UI gave us the ultimate flexibility to build anything that we needed. The other thing that they were interested in is this wasn't a huge organization with a large technical team. They didn't want to build their own portal and task management system right out of the box. So they needed something more than just a pure workflow engine. They needed something with a strong portal and management tools. And Axon Ivy has strong built-in tools for that out of the box as well. They also had, for the developers that they did have, they were Java developers. And Axon Ivy being a Java-based platform, the learning curve is much less for when they're adopting and maintaining this technology. All of the key components that it's built on, they're already familiar with. And then openness and reliability was also a key concern for them. The fact that this is a core process for their business, they can't afford to have it go down for extended periods of time. And the fact that Axon Ivy is built on a solid and fairly open technical stack is a huge asset. You'll see, especially in the low code space, that a lot of the technology behind it is kind of a black box. You're really depending on the vendor more than you might like to keep it running and to debug and to evolve it. So in summary, Axon Ivy was selected at our recommendation because of the need for a flexible and tailored UI, the strong portal and management tools, and that solid reliability. The last thing I'll say, not trying to be too effusive about Axon Ivy, but as a company, they've also been great because when you're buying technology like this, enterprise technology, you're not just buying the software itself, you're buying a relationship with the vendor. And Axon Ivy has been terrific in terms of flexibility with licensing terms and with support for the application, and just general respect for the customer. So with all that being said, I'll stop here for a second and we can move on to the questions and answers phase of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Neil. That was really interesting, since you did not only talk about the application itself, but also about the initial situation of BioCare and the way how they selected the process for automation, and great results achieved by BioCare indeed. Thanks also for sharing with us the reasons for choosing Axon Ivy. Very kind of you. Let me quickly turn to the questions. There are a couple of questions coming in. One question is, how is BioCare's experience with regards to stability? Probably stability of the platform is meant.
Okay. Here. Yeah, no, that's a good question. We were talking about that as being a key trait for selecting this technology. I can say we helped establish a ticketing system for this application. Very typical. You have your severity 1, 2, and 3 defects, where a severity 1 would be the system's down and there's no workaround, and severity 2 would be something very inconveniencing, and severity 3 would be kind of a cosmetic or an annoyance type of issue. Since we've launched this and we've been running it for a year, we haven't had any severity 1s at all, very few severity 2s. It's been a really stable platform, and again, I attribute that to the fact that it's running on very solid, proven technologies. For the most part, it's not something new that Axon Ivy completely invented from top to bottom. So we've seen what we would consider, as based on benchmark in the industry, pretty solid reliability.
Okay, thank you. Another question is this a solution which is tailored to BioCare specific requirements, or might it also be used for other biotechnology, pharmaceutical, or any manufacturing companies?
Okay, no, that's an interesting question, and it gets to the heart of something we didn't really discuss here so much, which is, why would you purchase a DPA platform like Axon Ivy instead of going to market and just buying some solution that someone has already built? I'm sure if you look around, there's plenty of QMS products, quality control products that are out there. And it is true that maybe 60 to 80% of the solution is fairly standard and could apply to any company, any manufacturing company, any biotech company. But the benefit of a DPA platform like Axon Ivy is the fact that for that remaining 20% where maybe your competitive advantage lies, or where you have some very specialized needs, you can customize that very easily and quickly. You don't have to go back to the vendor and request a feature. You don't have to work around it or build something extra. You can just modify the process model using the low-code tools and create your own screens and add that into the product.
Okay, thank you for answering this question. Another question is the following. I assume the value of such a process automation platform is even higher the more you do, the more processes you automate. Does BioCare plan to automate further business processes? Oh yeah, yep. This is right. Yeah, the value gets even higher the more processes you implement, and indeed there is a good example that we have here with regards to further business processes, right, Neil?
Yeah, that's right. I mentioned briefly we did an application to help them with managing their workforce during the COVID pandemic. That was something actually that we're able to stand up very quickly. You probably remember I mentioned that the quality control app went live in Q1, which is also around about the time that all of this COVID hit. So we were able to quickly, within a few weeks, stand up a solution to help them with their new working realities under COVID. And we actually threw in a slide here because BioCare very kindly actually allows us to resell this to anyone else who might be interested in it. But what they were looking for was, first of all, something that would help them to manage social distancing for their facility, because people do have to come into work to work the labs and to work the lines, but there are certain limits in terms of how many people they can have in the building at a certain time. They also have to make sure that they have enough people to actually manufacture the product. So they needed something from a scheduling point of view to make sure that people were scheduled into the right areas at the right time, not exceeding those limits. They also needed something to check for symptoms, basic health screening, where people would receive something the day before they come into work or a few hours before they come into work, something on their mobile phone where they can answer some basic questions about symptoms and whether they've had a positive diagnosis, and it will tell them what to do. And then they need to churn out all these reports for their leadership and for compliance to say who is in what area at what time, especially for contact tracing. So we built a really neat scheduling solution to help them with that. We've been involving it, and we've been getting a pretty good response on it. It's very simple and easy to use. And we have more information that we can share on that if people are interested. The other one I'll mention that they're currently developing is for their product development processes, the product development lifecycle, everything from R&D through to realizing the product for high volume manufacturing.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil, for also talking about the COVID solution. If you have more questions, there's still time to submit them here in the chat panel. Let me see. If not, no problem. Neil, if you can switch to the next and last slide, please. Exactly. So thank you very much. If you want to get in touch with us or schedule a demo, you just can scan the QR code here, and this leads you to a form. You fill it out, and then we will get in touch with you, and we'll be able to talk on an individual basis. If there are no more questions for now, then ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our webinar. Thank you for attending. We would love to welcome you again in one of our next events. Take care and see you again very soon. Goodbye.